to Mariah by the Books. So I'm a little bit late on this, but I have a really exciting review for you today of the book The Gossamer Mage by Czerneda, I think. And this book actually was one that I picked at random at the library. It happened to show up on our new shelves, which is a floating collection, so things just come and go. And you know, I know they say not to judge a book by its cover, but look at how beautiful this book cover is. I just couldn't resist. And the title sounded fascinating, and so I just picked it up. And by page 4, I told my husband, this is going to be a really good book. I was so excited. And the more I read, the more hooked I got. So this seems to be a standalone. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it seemed to me that everything was wrapped up really nicely in a bow. So this isn't going to be a huge commitment for you if you don't want to read another big long fantasy series. But this book to me was a really unique take on the magic system, on the world, on the characters, and it was such a pure fantasy for me. I really loved it. It's been a long time since I've read something that wasn't incorporating some kind of a romance or some kind of a dystopia or, you know, a lot of violence or whatever the case may be. And this book really focuses on the magic and on the characters, and it's just really exquisitely crafted. The book is centered in this world called Czerneda, and there's only one deity, sometimes known as the Deathless Goddess and various other things, and she is basically where magic comes from. And so the mages are given the gift of being able to translate magic into intentions by writing them down with pen and ink. And there are also the daughters, which they are able to hear and translate her words audibly. So there's really just a couple of very interesting sects within the world. I will say this, so a couple people in Goodreads reviews talked about the fact that they felt that the book was confusing, or they felt that they didn't know what was going on, or that the names were confusing. So I just want to address a couple of those things really quickly. So with regard to the book being confusing, I really actually enjoyed the way this book was set up. And basically what happens is that you find out more and more about the world and about what's going on and the antagonist and the problem that you're trying to solve as the story goes on. Okay, so it's not going to be something where you get a really clear delineated world building at the beginning and then the story progresses from there. You kind of get both at the same time, and I really enjoyed it because you were kind of in the same, like, what the heck position that the characters are, where you don't really know why this is happening or what's going on, but you find out as the characters do. And so I really enjoyed that. The world also gained a lot more detail and more clarity as you go. And in a lot of ways, it also gained more complexity and became more beautiful as you go through the story. So I really enjoyed that aspect. Definitely, it's not one where I feel like the author is spoon-feeding you what's going on. Again, it doesn't really give you a whole lot of world building beforehand. You're just kind of learning the world as you go through the story. So that may not be for everyone, but I really felt like it was a kind of a unique take, and I really enjoyed it. It reminded me more of some Eastern works that I've read as well, where there isn't quite so much of a clear antagonist, you know, traditional climax type of structure to the story. And so it's definitely an interesting flow, and I definitely liked it, but it may not be for everyone. With regard to the naming system, I also can understand it being a little bit confusing. The characters' names change when they become mages or they become daughters. So there's a character named Kate, and when she becomes a daughter, her name is Katie Allion. The mages add an Eonorial onto the end of their names, so they become, for example, Malionorial or Sielionorial, and it is a little bit much. They're long for sure. But to me, it reminded me a lot of religious groups where your name changes when you become a nun or when you become a cleric, something like that, that your name would change to reflect that you are now dedicated to this new life. You've left your old life behind. So I didn't find it too difficult, but that is something to keep in mind. I will say also that in the back of the book, there is a nice guide called The Key to Within that provides a glossary of character names, of place names, things like that. So if you get confused as you're reading, you can definitely flip back here and it'll kind of remind you of who's who and what's going on. I didn't find that necessary though, but that is something that's there in case you need it. So with that being said, I don't want to do any spoilers or anything like that in this, so I'm really trying to keep it kind of basic, but also tell you guys that this is an awesome book. Another thing that I wanted to mention just briefly is that there are not a whole lot of terribly violent scenes in this book. It's pretty much kept to one scene and it's kind of kept to a minimum. It's the kind of scene where you can kind of visualize it as much or as little as you want. It's violent for sure, but it doesn't have to be, like, it's not super explicitly gory. So if that's something that bothers you, you can kind of skim over it, but you'll know when it comes up for sure. And there's, like I said, no romantic element. There's no really sexual content in it at all. So if that's something that bothers you, you can rest assured that this would be an okay book for you as well. And I really liked the messages that this book left with. I really liked, you know, the idea that we aren't all going to know everything. We aren't all going to know all the same things, that different people have, you know, different talents, different knowledge, different things to contribute to the world. And I liked that a lot. I liked that some things are mysteries and that we're not all ever going to know the answers. And I liked that as well. Even as somebody who likes science and likes to learn and explore, like, it's nice sometimes to just acknowledge that there are some things that in my lifetime I probably will never understand, and that's okay. The other thing, the one thing that I will say that I didn't super duper love about this, and I'm not going to be too explicit with this because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I wish that when authors killed a character, they would leave it alone. And I'll just say that. The only other thing that I really felt like I enjoyed was just the pacing of this book. I feel like it kind of kept a measured pace throughout, where I never felt like I was getting bored, or there were never any parts that I felt like could have been left out because they were too boring or expositional. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of exposition in this book. You kind of find things out as the characters do, which may be good or bad depending on your preference for your literature. It's not a super long book, but I really felt like I was so connected to the characters and to the story, and I wanted to see what was going to happen. And at one point towards the end, there was a twist that I thought I saw coming because of the title, and I turned out to be wrong, and I was glad of that. But you'll see what I mean if you read it. But anyway, with that being said, this is definitely a book that I recommend you pick up. I am so glad it happened to show up on the shelves at my library so that I would see it, because I had not heard of it at all before. So if you're looking for something new, if you're looking for a one-off book, if you're looking for you know, something without a lot of the tropes and stereotypes and things like that in it, I definitely recommend you pick up this book. It's a beautiful world. It's a wonderful story. It's got great messages, and overall it's pretty positive. And I have great feelings about this book. I think honestly for me, this is one that I will definitely want to buy and read again. It's one that I will be recommending to people in my real life because it's just that good. I don't often read a lot of adult fantasy. I do sometimes, but most of what I read is YA. And a big part of that is because I feel like so much of the time YA novels connect you so much deeper to the characters, and they ignore a lot of that fluffy, like, everyday life boring stuff that I don't care about. And I really appreciated that this book kind of left out a lot of that extra junk. It kind of bridged the gap for me between what I love about YA and what I love about more adult fantasy novels. And it was really a wonderful read. So let me know in the comments down below if you've read this book, if you have not read this book but you're interested, or if it doesn't sound like it's your cup of tea. Just let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in more content about books, libraries in general, please feel free to subscribe. You can find all my social media down below as well. Hi, Rupert. And I will catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys. Can I help you? Oh, you're like a good boy. Yes.